Cool. Camera's very bouncy when I type. That's cool. Hello. Has someone signed in viewing already? Nice to see you. Talk in the chat. That's cool. I really am just playing around here. Social stream. No one's showing up in that. If you can hear me at all, then pop something into the chat area. So hello everyone. So I'm being told in the corner that I've got one viewer. I'm interested to see how this goes. I don't have separate streaming and recording buttons. That's interesting. That means when I upload this earlier, I get all my crap on the front. So let's see if I can do something about the spotlight in the background. Is that too dark? Now I've taken the glare away? Hello! I feel like I should probably log in on the computer side and see what this looks like. I briefly went up to 2 viewers and then I went down to 1 again. Oh dear. So, for anyone watching, I'll really into some stories at some point. I'm on holiday at the moment. I've just come back from Grand Prix Turin, and I'm at my in-laws' place, which is a really nice place in Devon. Really enjoy it. So I'm not at home with my normal equipment. I've got a PC next to me. I'm gonna see what happens if the sound's off on it, so I'm gonna end up like in a feedback loop or something. If I try watching my stream from one place whilst I'm streaming through this. I'm actually streaming through an iPad at the moment. It's an iPad 2. I look quite blurry to me. That could be because I'm feeling really sleepy and it looks blurry, or it could be because it's actually a little blurrier, the camera on this, as it was on the Mac. So I'm interested now. I'd love to see some people get into the chat and tell me how this looks. I've got an interface like at the bottom of the pad for the chat, so I can chat. I can go hello. It's only got one L in it, but it doesn't matter. So I can send messages. I'm not seeing anything down there. So if you're watching this, I'm really interested to see what the video quality is like. So I'm trying to sign in myself. But like, is it noticeably different from before? Is it better? Is it worse? I'd be surprised if it was better. I imagine the quality of the camera in the iPad to be less than the iMac. How do I find myself in this? What do I call the channel? It's like Magic the Judging or something, isn't it? If I search Magic the Judging, do I find myself? That'd be an interesting thing. Okay, so having started up the computer next to me, I can see my network quality's dropped. So, again, please try to let me know if I'm losing you here. I was going to show you something on a piece of paper as well, but in my camera preview, the writing on this is backwards. So can you let me know if this comes out the right way or not? Like, is this supposed to say GP Turin Sunday? But in my camera preview, I'm seeing the mirror image of it. So I'm interested to see what you actually have live. Now that's really weird because I'm talking at the iPad, and at the same time I can look to my right and see my live stream. Hello, my live stream. But it must be catching up because I can't tell which bit of the stream I'm watching. Oh, cool. I'm a bit pixelated. The video and audio are both really choppy. It's not that blurry. The lighting's quite bad. Okay, I'll try to put the spotlights back on again. So I thought that was giving me too much glare. Maybe that's worse. I don't know. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, I'm now looking to my right and realizing on the live stream is mirrored compared to what I see. So your text is the right way around. That's really weird that it would display one way on my screen and like the complete other way on the live stream. I'm also getting a sense of quite how far behind the live stream is from what I'm saying. So are you able to understand what I'm saying, or is the audio that choppy that's proving impossible? That's kind of what I'm interested. I'm seeing, like, I've got network stats at the top that are telling me I've got 100 kilobits per second. It's kind of hovering around 112. When I wasn't streaming on the PC. Anyway, to get light from the front. Let's try the other chair. If I go into this chair, so I've got the spotlights you were seeing. See, you can. They were the lights that were on me before. Let's try another angle. Because I'm quite appreciating. Does that seem okay? I've got to hold it to get this angle. I don't like that. It's good to know about the lighting stuff, because one of the main reasons I'm doing this test with the iPad right now is because, as I said, I don't have access to my normal kit, but I'm looking at trying to use something like this for the judge conference. I'd love to stream some seminars from there, which would be fantastic. And I tell people in advance doing it. I wouldn't like randomly spring it on people. So the fact that the iPad camera needs good lighting is quite good. This feels like a bad horror movie. Oh, I like it. Okay, very interesting stuff. Thanks for helping me out with these. I was setting up on the other table. So, does anybody want any Innistrad boosters? Because I got 4 boxes from Turin. I also got this rather nice Magic Judge badge. Woo! I could use that as like, hey, look, I have a logo. Wah! These are the replacements for the the Judge shirt has the DCI logo on it on this side, I think. So this is to be patched on top of the shirt, because apparently we're not called the DCI anymore, and it's taken a while for our clothing and our websites and our mailing lists and everything to catch up with that. I'd be very impressed if the plate behind me actually did that. Okay, so I'm going to kill the other stream on the PC because I'm getting enough feedback from you guys. That's awesome. That will hopefully improve my network quality. There we go, that's gone. That'll hopefully improve my network quality. So, I was in Turin. Paul Smith, judge. I don't know why Sorin represents us judges, but yeah, there he is. And there we are, GP Turin. Woo! I was there. It was good. I'm getting comments in the stream about the number of boxes we've got. I've still got so much Dark Ascension left over, I decided to take Innistrad instead, just to have something different. But yes, the quantity of boxes I'm picking up with the number of GPs there are is quite insane. And to think that I'm going to get even more at GP Manchester, because that's before Avacyn Restored, is pretty horrifying. I really should just dump them all on a dealer or something. I'm sure. How much does a random dealer give you for like a box of product? I'm also getting comments in chat about the patches, about the logo being fine, but the fact it's a patch being an issue. I think it's quite cool. I like the logo. I like a little bit of colour on the shirt. I don't I don't really care that it's a patch. Is it really that, like, it makes that much difference that it's 3 or 4 millimeters out from the shirt rather than kind of embedded in it? I don't know. I like them. Better than the greyed out DCI stuff, especially as the DCI moniker itself is a bit outdated. My network quality has just dropped through the floor, so I'm probably really skipping right now. So yes, on the iPad, I don't have the thing where I can upload pictures and have them like swish in and out, so I can't give you like running card commentary as I've done before. I've just got a few notes of some interesting things from Turin, so I'll go through them. We'll see if there's anything interesting, and I'll try to be clear over which cards I'm talking about. So that if you want to go to Gatherer or magiccards.info, your favourite card search engine, then you can catch up. I learnt some cool stuff in Turin. I had some really good conversations. Amazing, even about the rules. I thought I was getting to a point where I really knew the rules quite well, but it turns out there's still things that catch me. I'll get onto those later. So here are some questions that actually came up in GP Turin, which was a Madrid thing. Charlie, are you trying to post links in the chat? Because I know, again, from the computer program, I can unlock links, so I can allow links in the chat, but I don't appear to have I can't find a setting to do that. But yeah, never mind. So yes, questions that actually happened in GP Turin first, and then some theoretical, sort of quite interesting afterwards. So what have we got? Huntmaster of the Fells, this is quite a good one. Huntmaster of the Fells is one of the double-faced cards, and it sees play, and I believe it even sees play in Modern, so there we go. Huntmaster of the Fells has converted mana cost 4. When it's flipped, it's Ravager of the Fells has converted mana cost 0. So here's the question. There's a blue enchantment called Threads of Disloyalty that allows you to take control of a card, but it can only enchant a creature that has converted mana cost of 2 or less. So how does this interact with Ravager of the Fells, was the question. Can you steal a Huntmaster of the Fells? Kind of obviously not. But you can steal a Ravager once it's flipped, because that has a converted mana cost of 0. So let's see you do something that will cause the Ravager of the Fells to flip back into Huntmaster. What exactly happens next? The key parts are that having flipped, its converted mana cost goes to 4, and Threads of Disloyalty says that it may only enchant a creature of converted mana cost 2 or less. So it's not just a targeting restriction, it's a restriction on the legality of the attachment. So the aura is going to fall off, so you're going to be giving the Huntmaster of the Fells back to the opponent. But Huntmaster is a particularly interesting case because it has the trigger, what triggers on it to transfer, when it transforms back into Huntmaster, something's going to happen. Someone's going to gain 2 life and someone's going to get a token. And again, I do it in every stream. I mentioned the first episode, I mentioned state-based actions, and interestingly, the kind of timing window is important here. You flip the card into Huntmaster, that causes the thing to trigger, so it triggered whilst it was under your control. You then check your state-based actions, and state-based actions see that the Threads of Disloyalty is enchanting a legal permanent, so it falls off, and you immediately give the Huntmaster back to your opponent. Then we get to put the trigger on the stack, and then when it resolves, we will get the 2 life and the token because we triggered the Huntmaster's ability. We don't have it when the trigger goes to resolve, but that doesn't matter. Entirely independent. So that's cool. I'm just going through my notes. My really rough handwritten notes that I made as I was there. So I jump in and out of kind of streams of thought. One thing I found very interesting in Turin was that it was something like, it was just over 1,000 players, I think, and only 400 of them played in round 1. So we're looking at like 60% of the field had a buy, at least one buy. about 2/3 of the field played in round 2. I'm being told off for actually starting on time this week. It's because I guess I have very little to get ready, and just testing it out with people. And Charlie says he wasn't posting any links, which is interesting because I have 2 lines in the chat where you've posted something that's been censored. So either you were literally posting the word censored, or you did something else. I assumed it was links. Never mind. In round 1, there were at least 3 no-shows. Like in GPs in Europe tend to split in half, so we have half the tournament playing on green tablecloths and half the tournament playing on blue tablecloths. And in just one section of the green tournament, there were 3 no-shows. So kind of extrapolating, I expect there to have been something like 10 or 15 no-shows in the first round. And as I understand it, we tried to find out who had never shown up for the event. So if anybody had registered, not shown up in round 1, round 2, and like eventually got through to like round 4 and they've never shown up, we didn't drop them from the tournament, we deleted them from the tournament. By deleting them, they earn no Planeswalker points, whereas by enrolling them and dropping them, they would earn the participation points for the GP, which we believe is what actually led to that number of no-shows. We're thinking it's driven by Planeswalker points, so we want to take away the incentive. So if you pre-register for a GP because you want the points and you don't show up, you're going to get deleted. I'm being told that maybe Charlie was talking about eBay and Kim could see the name eBay in the chat. So I don't know, maybe we have, maybe the iPad app that I'm like doing the streaming through has different censoring rules. That's strange. Anyway, we had a player who decided to represent the power and toughness of Tarmogoyf by using a dice or a set of counters. No, it was a set of counters on the Tarmogoyf. To know how many card types, how many unique card types were in the 2 graveyards, which led to one player then actually believing that he could use Hex Parasite to remove the counters on the Tarmogoyf. So that's one big downside to representing it incorrectly. Tarmogoyf doesn't use counters to track its power and toughness. It has a characteristic defining ability. It's just on at all times, and you're supposed to be able to keep up with it. So. A couple of simple ones. Someone reanimated Iona using Unburial Rites, and they wanted to know exactly like, at what point do I need to play a spell, can I respond to the colour choice, that kind of thing. So it works like this: you play Unburial Rites targeting Iona. Obviously Unburial Rites goes on the stack and you get a chance to respond to that. At this point you don't know what colour the player's going to name with Iona, unless they've been uber helpful and already told you. In which case we'll hold them to it. But assuming they play it properly, which this guy did, he plays Unburial Rites, that stays on the stack. And if you don't respond to that, when Unburial Rites resolves, Iona will come into play. She's got a replacement effect on her, which means instead of just coming into play, you choose a colour at the same time. And so that's just in effect straight away. As soon as Iona's in play, you make the choice of colour, and that already applies. So if I choose white and you've got Path to Exile in your hand, you don't get a chance to cast it now. You should have cast it in response to the Unburial Rites, guessing that I was going to name white. Basically, you're the one at risk of trying to guess what I'm trying to do. Oh yeah, we also noted that Turin was actually the very last event in that Planeswalker point season. So all I'm saying about the no-shows and the drops and the number of buys present is not entirely relevant for GP Manchester in a couple of weeks, because Manchester's in the new season, and I'm not sure that the same kind of things that affect the last tournament of the season will affect like one of the very early tournaments of the season. It might do, but what else do we have? If I flash in a Snapcaster Mage and I give a spell flashback in my graveyard, and that spell also has kicker, can I flash it back with the kicker? And the answer is yes, because flashback's an alternate cost, kicker is an additional cost, and it's perfectly allowed to use an alternate cost for playing a spell and then pay additional cost on top of that. So
kicker is a form. It's an additional cost that you can choose to pay. But of course, if something like Thalia was in play, that would be an additional cost that you don't have any choice over paying. So you know for sure that if you would flash back a spell from your graveyard and Thalia was in play, you would have to pay the one more. So that's kind of a little mental kind of tick that says, so I would have to pay additional cost in that sense. So for things like kicker, the additional costs I can choose, then surely I must be allowed to choose them. And I can, which is good. Where did we go next? Gaia's Blessing is a nice little anti-mill card, but amazingly it does get cast sometimes as well. If you cast Gaia's Blessing, you can shuffle up to 2 cards, target cards, from your graveyard into your library. And the question was asked, well, given that I'm allowed up to 2 targets, I'm clearly allowed to have 0 targets. If I should shuffle 0 target cards, so shuffle nothing into my library, do I actually shuffle my library at all? And it turns out there is a rule that covers it. It's in keyword actions, which is somewhere around 701 section of the comp rules. I don't have the reference number right in front of me, but somewhere around the early 700s, there's a keyword action section just before the keyword abilities. And in there, shuffle is not only defined, but a lot of the interesting cases towards when exactly you do and do not shuffle are in there. And one of them specifically says that if you shuffle a set of cards into your library, even if the set is in fact the empty set, you do shuffle your thing. So yeah, there you go. Gaia's Blessing for 0 does shuffle your library, which is nice. Amusingly, well, I say amusingly, interestingly, there is also a rule in there for what happens if you're told to shuffle a specific card into your library, but then when you go to resolve that ability, the card is no longer there. So I'm trying to think of a way that this would happen without targeting, but I'm missing it at the moment. Something like Emrakul dying, because that triggers, doesn't it? So yeah, Emrakul dying and triggering to say I get shuffled into my library, but then you removing the graveyard in response, so Emrakul is not actually there. In fact, sorry, Emrakul would shuffle the entire graveyard in, wouldn't it? So yes, Emrakul. Does this even apply? Kim's shouting 701.16 to me, or more specifically 701.16E for the specific rule I'm thinking of, which is fantastic. The one I'm trying to evoke an example for here and failing abysmally is there's something that tells you to shuffle a specific card into your library, but then when the ability goes to resolve, you can't find that card because it's not in the zone you expected it to be in. Now, this actually works the other way. If you can't find it, then you don't shuffle it in at all. So you don't shuffle at all. It's strange. I don't understand why the 2 rules come to different conclusions about what you do with shuffling 0 things. So Kim's given me an example in the chat because she's brilliant. If you cast Black Sun's Zenith using flashback, then Black Sun Zenith will try to shuffle itself into its owner's library, but because of flashback, when it goes to leave the stack, it will be exiled instead. So what do you do when you get to the instruction of Black Sun Zenith to shuffle it into your library, where it can't be found in the place where it was supposed to be found, so it doesn't get shuffled into the library, so you don't shuffle. It's different to you choosing a set of objects and the set being empty. So there we go. I'm getting oh oops in the chat. So, interesting. I'll let that chat resolve it itself. I think I've managed to kick off an example. I managed to kick off a bit of an argument between Simon and Kim here. This is interesting. I'll monitor the chat whilst I move on, and you guys resolve it. And if I've said something wrong, let me know, so I can broadcast to the world that actually I got it wrong. So let's carry on. Some more simple ones. My opponent's got a legendary land in play. I think it was Eye of Ugin in this case. And I go to crack an expedition map, This is very similar to the Iona situation we just had. I crack an expedition map, and because I want to go and find an Iabugin out of my deck. When I go to crack the expedition map, the ability goes on the stack, and the opponent has a chance to activate his Iabugin at that point before knowing what land I'm going to go get. But then when we resolve the expedition map's ability, I go and search for land. I show him it's the Iabugin. He knows right now that he wants to activate the Iabugin because he's seen what I'm about to do. But, and we should know this from the other week, what happens? Who gets priority immediately after ability is resolved? It's the active player. So once the expedition map ability resolves and I've got the thing in my hand, I've got priority, so I play it. Playing a land doesn't use the stack, so you can't respond to that. And as soon as it hits play, state-based action, see 2 legendary lands with the same name and puts them in the graveyard. So again, when I cracked the expedition map, that was the point you had to respond. You didn't, so both lands are gone. This one I felt was quite interesting because it's to do with combat shortcuts, which again were mentioned in one of the episodes, and I started to have a small disagreement with Paul Crosby, who was talking about moving to beginning of combat. So it's amusing that I had a judge call which involved moving to the beginning of combat. But in this one there's a point to it. Guy plays Deceiver Exarch and chooses to tap one of his opponent's lands. He's got 2 planes untapped, so he's obviously scared of some 2-mana white spell that I couldn't think at the time what he was scared of, and I couldn't see the opponent's hand to actually get the example, but it doesn't matter. In response to the Deceiver Exarch's ability, he taps the planes to float white mana. So this guy, again, I don't know what spell he's scared of, but it's still a good play anyway. He wants to get rid of the white mana that's in his opponent's pool. So he's got the Kiki Jiki in play, and he's got Deceiver Exarch, but he doesn't want to combo off yet. He goes, I want to go to beginning of combat. By going to beginning of combat, I get rid of the white mana in your pool because we've moved. And then I can combo off in the beginning of combat step and end up with my million Deceiver Exarch tokens. And this will still happen before my declaration of attackers, so that I can attack and win. There's a tournament shortcut that says that if you want to advance to the combat step and you say something like beginning of combat, or so you say something like combat or attackers or something like that, then the tournament policy says that if you say something ambiguous like that, you're assumed to be passing priority twice until it's the opponent's chance to have priority in the beginning of combat step. So if they pass back to you, you've got to declare attackers immediately. Now the reason this tournament shortcut exists is exactly because we don't want situations where the active player who's going to be declaring an attack tricks the non-active player into casting a spell too soon or something like that, so that they can get down a guy with haste and attack with that, or something along those lines. It's all about trickery, really. I'm not allowed to trick you into thinking we're in a part of the turn where we're not. Now in this situation, because it's my opponent who's got the white mana in his pool, I'm actually quite inclined to think if there's any trickery going on, it's actually the non-active player who wants to trick me to going to declare attackers. And I was absolutely certain, even though there's quite a language barrier between the 2 players, I could see they were having difficulty communicating. I did nevertheless rule that the guy, he was definitely trying to go to the beginning of combat. And I ruled that he did, exactly because he had a good reason to, which is to get the white mana out of his opponent's pool. Get that to go away, so he can combo off in relative safety. So yes, exactly because he had a good reason, and I didn't feel he was trying to trick, and I purely just believe his opponent misunderstood. I went with, I believe you that you were specific enough in saying that you wanted to go to the beginning of combat step, and I'm going to allow you to do it. Which is cool, and I believe the right result for that game. So there we go. We had some other questions. What happens if you remand a spell that's been cast from a hideaway land? well, the same thing as if you remand a spell that's been cast from anywhere else, really. There's nothing special about casting it from the hideaway land. It's going to go back to the hand, which is pretty cool. I think it's probably because you have in your head that remand puts the spell you cast back in your hand, which kind of has the implication that it came from hand in the first place. But the fact that it didn't come from hand is no problem. You remand it back to the hand, you draw a card, and it's done. Speaking of hideaway lands, I loved this deck. I saw a deck that played both the white and the green hideaway lands. The white one is kind of active after you attack with 3 guys. So you're playing Birds of Paradise and cards that made Eldrazi spawn. So he's ramping mana, but also making attackers at the same time. And the green hideaway land is active when you have 10 power of stuff in play. And obviously he's got Emrakul. And the best part of kind of cheating Emrakul into play this way through a hideaway land is that you actually cast him, which means you get the benefit of casting him, which is that you get the extra turn. With Emrakul in play, he makes the green hideaway land active, so you can get that going. There was also Primeval Titan in the deck, which would come into play off of one of the hideaway lands and go and fetch you 2 more hideaway lands. Awesome. I love the look of that deck. Really want to make it. Question just came up in the chat about what happens if you remand a flashback spell. That one's an interesting one, because remand says something along the lines of if spells countered this way, put it in the hand instead of the graveyard. Something along those lines. Again, don't have the text in front of me. Whereas flashback says that if you pay the alternate cost of casting a spell through flashback, then you exile it instead of putting it anywhere else when it would leave the stack. So remand counters the spell, the self-replacement kicks in and says, no, don't go to the graveyard, go to the hand instead. And then the flashback kicks in and goes, no, don't go to the hand, go to exile instead. So remanding a flashback spell, it doesn't put it back in the hand. They're not going to get it like 2 more times. It gets exiled. Mindslaver is a really good card to activate when your opponent has Liliana of the Veil in play on 6 counters, because you can send their ultimate off targeting themselves, and you can make all the choices. So you can make 2 piles of cards, one that's got nothing in it and one that's got everything in it, and then you can choose the everything pile to be sacrificed. I'm pretty sure if you manage that, you are going to win the game. So I saw a kill that way, and I saw a kill where someone Mindslavered a player who had Spellskite out, and they cast a spell, and the spell didn't even target, but it doesn't matter, because with that spell on the stack, they go, target that with Spellskite's ability lots of times, paying 2 life each time, and kill you. Because he was on an even life total, that's the only way it works. You can't pay 2 life unless you actually have 2 life. So if you get to 1 life, you've got 2 life, we can make you pay that life, and you go to 0 and die. I've been asked in the chat to mention self-replacement effects. Yes, we haven't actually had replacement. I haven't done like a stream on replacement effects. They're relatively simple, but I guess they're stream worthy. I'll get there at some point. But self-replacement effects always do apply before other replacement effects. And because remand is replacing its own effect, its effect definitely has to happen first. I don't think it actually matters in the case of remand versus flashback, because they're trying to do different things. Remand is saying, instead of going to the graveyard, go to my hand. And flashback is saying, regardless, if I'm going anywhere, go to exile instead. So I don't think there's actually an interaction, but regardless, the self-replacement effect will apply first anyway, so it's definitely a great answer. We had some players not believe that Wormcoil Engine makes 2 worms. One has Lifelink, one has Death Touch. But despite that, they have the same name. So Maelstrom Pulse kills both of them. Awesome card, that one. Love just going, all these things are dead. Someone saying in the chat, please say you saw that at GP Turin. What is it you want me to say I saw at GP Turin? All of this stuff is real stuff. There's everything I've mentioned so far, actually happened, and I needed to either I or someone near me needed to answer questions on this one. We had the classic one of Tarmogoyf versus a Burst Lightning, where the Burst Lightning damages the Tarmogoyf, and then as the final part of resolving goes to the graveyard, and then we check state-based actions to see if any creatures have taken lethal damage. But now, because the Burst Lightning is in the graveyard, that counts as a card type, so the Tarmogoyf has higher toughness, so it doesn't die. We had that happen. Players still haven't got it. I say still. I mean, it's been a while since Tarmogoyf's been about, and the modern format's relatively new, so it'll still happen. Looking at extra cards is a penalty that applies if you see a bit of the library that you weren't supposed to. The resolution of it, the fix for it is quite simple a lot of the time, where you just shuffle up the library, except if any part of the library is known. And we'll just stop to note that there's a blue-red Storm deck that plays lots of effects like Peer Through Depths, like not Ponder because that's banned. Scry effects, Scry 2 draw a card, Serum Visions, lots of effects like those, and that makes the shuffle the random part of the deck a little tougher to actually evaluate as a judge. I've had to spend quite a while working out exactly which bits of the top and bottom of the library they knew. Thankfully, the opponent agreed with exactly everything this person had done. Like he had cast some scry, but he'd only ever scried one card to the bottom. Everything else he'd scried to the top, and he'd already drawn it by the time we accidentally committed looking at extra cards. And Peer Through Depths is quite easy because it's always going to put at least 4 on the bottom. It will only put a 5th if you actually failed to reveal an instant. Is that what it finds? Finds instants? I can't remember. If you actually failed to find an instant, but both players agreed that he found an instant, so that's cool. That was cool. Interesting stack involving a Vexing Shusher. I don't remember the details exactly, and my notes aren't fantastic, but Vexing Shusher makes a spell uncounterable, the spell on the stack uncounterable. So you cast something, this guy plays Vexing Shusher to make it uncounterable, wrong way around. Card goes on the stack, opponent tries to counter it. In response, this guy plays Vexing Shusher to make it uncounterable. In response to that, this guy plays a Remand on his own counterspell. And in response, this guy plays the Vexing Shusher ability again, targeting this counterspell. So, first thing, that's actually possible because Vexing Shusher targets a spell on the stack, not a spell you control, or something like that.